It was raining the morning of the Forbes cover shoot, not a cinematic downpour, just a steady drizzle, like the sky whispering, "You made it." The studio was draped in ivory and shadow, the stylist flipping through racks of safe, but I walked in holding a box. Inside, a silk off-white dress, the one I never got to wear down an aisle, the one I almost cried into, the one I buried under sweaters for a year. I laid it on the table and said, "This is what I'll wear," because I wasn't abandoned in this. I was resurrected. They shot me barefoot, hair unpinned, coffee in hand. No power heels. No corporate armor, just clarity. The headline read, "From ghosted to glorified, how she turned silence into a software empire." I didn't flinch when I saw it, but I did whisper. They wanted to break me quietly. I rebuilt louder than their applause could ever reach. Later that week, I visited the old office, not out of nostalgia, out of closure. The receptionist was new, didn't recognize me. Perfect. I walked the hall once covered in coffee orders and quiet hopes. The wall where they used to post Employee of the Month was empty now. I slipped something beneath the frame, a printed Mirror Mine card. On the back, a quote, "Be kind, some of us are the plot twist." Then I left, took the elevator down one last time, watched my reflection ripple across steel walls. No dread. No ghosts, just me, and in my hand, the same ring box. Not to propose. To donate. I dropped it in a women's shelter mailbox near the corner coffee shop, because symbols change, and this one was now a key. Mirror Mind hit 1 million users that month. A version built for teenage girls launched next with guided reflection journals, peer support threads, and daily poetry reminders. First entry: "You are not the echo of who hurt you. You are the anthem of who you became." I still get messages from people who knew me before. They ask, "Was it all really that bad?" And I never respond with bitterness, just a line from my summit. Talk. You don't get to call me bitter when I turned heartbreak into a platform that healed more than just me. 1 year later, I stood on another stage, this time as founder of the year. Same silk dress, same red heels, same mirror in my dressing room. I smiled at her, the reflection, not because she made it, but because she remembered every bruise. On the way up, every printer jam, every condescending smirk, every ignored idea, every moment she chose to grow instead of grieve. And as I stepped out into the spotlight, I whispered, "This is what I wore the day I was freed." Some people send invoices. I send closure. That month, I began writing letters. Not for mailing, not for drama, but for ceremony. Letters addressed to every version of myself that ever twisted in silence trying to please the unpleasable. Each letter was folded and dropped into an old ring box. The one I once used to imagine proposals, now repurposed for farewells. Letter 1. To the girl who stayed late, you didn't need to prove your worth by exhaustion. They saw you. They just pretended not to. But you stayed hoping kindness would earn clarity. It didn't. But that doesn't mean your kindness was wrong. It means their blindness wasn't yours to fix. Letter 2. To the woman who smiled through sabotage, you watched them steal your deck, present it like it was theirs, and still, you clapped. You thought grace was strategy, but now you know silence is only golden when you choose it. Letter 3. To the mirror, you hated me for not being sharper, louder, crueler. But I see now my softness was the sharpest thing in the room. I survived because I didn't mutate. I evolved, and now, the mirror doesn't scare me, it thanks me. That ring box went into a vault, not to be reopened, but to remind me, some rings are never meant to be worn. Meanwhile, Mirror Mine crossed 100,000 users. I got a call from a streaming platform. They wanted to option my story for a docu-series. Quiet girls who built empires. I didn't laugh. I simply asked, "Will the camera zoom in when I talk about the coffee stains on my old desk?" They said yes. That night, I was alone in my apartment. Candles, records, wind brushing the curtains. I walked to the mirror. the one I once avoided, looked into it, not for flaws, for fragments I'd reclaimed, my voice steady, my eyes unflinching, my shoulders higher. Then I did something sacred. I opened the elevator app, scrolled to my old building, hit remove from favorites. Because some places aren't homes, they're haunted houses we outgrow. And in case you're wondering about the ring, I wear one now, on my middle finger, a custom signet etched with the Mirror Mind logo, because the only thing I vow to serve is the woman I became while they were underestimating me. I never thought I'd hold a microphone again, not after the last time it shook in my hands during the office reorg meeting where I was softly transitioned into a new role. But this one was warm, not trembling, thrumming. The summit stage was built like a cathedral for stories, backlit by violet and rose lights, a mirrored floor that shimmered with every step, hundreds of women in tailored suits, statement earrings, sneakers that had outrun heartbreak, and I stood there, not to perform, but to witness. They told me I was too emotional for tech. I began, but what they meant was I made them feel something they weren't ready to confront. A pause. They leaned in. They said I didn't have the edge for leadership. So I carved my own skyline, quietly. And now, they look up at it. Laughter. Applause. But not the clapping you hear in boardrooms. This was soul-level affirmation, the kind that comes from decades of pretending you're fine, and finally, saying, no, I was bleeding the whole time and still built anyway. I walked them through the launch of Mirror Mind, not as a tech story, but as a love letter. To the girl in HR who cried in the restroom but led a team meeting with perfect slides. To the founder who smiled through her co-founder's betrayal and still got funded. To the intern who knew more than the CEO but was told to sit tight. Mirror Mind was never about vengeance, I said. It was about reflection, because once we see ourselves clearly, no one can unsee our worth again. A standing ovation, not because I was impressive, because I was familiar. After the talk, the DMs flooded in, not likes, not claps, confessions. Your story mirrored mine. You said what I've never had the words for. Can I join your beta test group? By midnight, we had 28,000 new signups. The app crashed twice. Investors called, influencers posted. But none of that compared to the one message I got from a contact labeled only. Old elevator ghost Daniel? Yes, that Daniel, from 5 years ago. My first boss, the one who once said, you're too kind to climb. His message? Saw your summit clip. You built something beautiful. Let me know if you're ever raising. Would love to invest. I stared at it for a long time, then replied with a voice note. Thank you, but I only take capital from people who never doubted mine. The final mirror? It came 1 week later. Bree resigned. Quietly. No LinkedIn essay, just a line in the group chat. Taking time to realign with my purpose, I send a silent toast into the air, because sometimes your revenge is not the downfall, it's the moment. They realized they were never the main character. I walked past her old office one last time. Empty now. The fig tree was still there, dry leaves curling like paper secrets. I placed one thing on her old desk, a Mirror Mind sticker, and a note. Thanks for teaching me everything I should never become, with grace, not apologies. The last scene wasn't dramatic, just me, in an elevator, mirrored walls, red heels, coffee in one hand, and a reflection that looked nothing like the girl beside the printer. She didn't need closure, didn't need revenge. She had something better, a skyline only she could build. There's something sacred about waking up and not needing to defend yourself anymore. No explanations. No pretending. No shrinking. Just purpose. That was the morning I made my last coffee run for the office. I walked in with 6 cups. No sugar, just silence. Placed them at the edge of the marketing table. Bree raised a brow. You didn't get almond milk? I smiled, the kind of smile that says, I don't live here anymore. I stopped memorizing orders for people who forget I exist. When it's convenient. She blinked, but before her mouth could shape a retort, I walked away. The printer hummed beside my desk, but I wasn't there to serve anymore. The platform was nearly ready. I had rebuilt it from wireframe to UI with every feature fueled by the women I used to be. A daily emotional check-in with poetic prompts, a private thread section for ghosted, gaslit, and gone stories, and a reflection feature every week, a digital mirror showing growth patterns, resilience scores, and quiet wins. I tested it with 3 women I trusted, all burned by corporate betrayal. They cried, not because it was perfect, but because it named what no one else had. I didn't know my exhaustion had a language. One said, "That's when I added a new module, the ring theory, a metaphor I wrote at 2 a.m. Every betrayal leaves a ring, not on your finger but in your memory. The goal isn't to erase it, the goal is to grow around it." It became the soul of the app. Bree noticed something was changing. One day she cornered me at the snack bar. "You seem different. What's going on?" I stirred my tea slowly. "I stopped performing grief for people who caused it." She laughed nervously. "You're not still upset about the demotion? The stolen ideas? The fact that you used my loyalty as leverage in your pitch to Elise?" I turned toward her. "No, I'm not upset. I'm observant and done." She tried to blink it away to reset the moment with a condescending chuckle, but I had already walked off. I left my tea behind, because even bitterness deserves a second chance. She didn't. I launched Mirror Mind quietly. No press, no PR push, just a midnight tweet. If you've ever been betrayed in a boardroom and blamed yourself for caring too much, welcome. We've been waiting for you. Mirror Mind. Ioi went to sleep. By morning. It had 6,200 signed ups. By noon. It was trending on Product Hunt. By nightfall. I got a DM from an investor I'd once presented to, the same one who ignored me mid-pitch. To check his phone. "This is brilliant. Who built this?" I replied with 3 words. "The girl by the printer." The energy shifted at work. I stopped being invisible, not because they liked me again, but because they realized they couldn't ignore me anymore. Clients began referencing Mirror Mind in meetings. A Forbes article quoted one of my poetry prompts. Elise forwarded it with a note. "Let's discuss integrating mental wellness into our brand narrative." I stared at the screen. Not a thank you, not a credit, just a "let's extract this and pretend we cared all along." And yet I didn't feel rage, because there's a moment in every quiet revenge arc where you realize you're no longer trying to change the room. You're building the one they'll eventually beg to enter. Then came the invitation, a National Women in Tech Summit, theme, Resilience After Ruin. They wanted me on a panel, not as an attendee but as the keynote. Bree's face the day the internal memo dropped. Worth more than every raise I'd been denied. She walked past my desk, eyes darting, voice low. "Congrats. Seriously. Just don't forget where you started." I stood, met her gaze. "I haven't. I started in the back, with my back against the wall. I built from there." 2 nights before the summit, I sat at my desk again, but this time, it wasn't to pitch or beg or bleed. It was to write. Not strategy, a speech, one that would begin with, "They called me soft. So I built a company that holds softness like power. They called me emotional. So I built a mirror that lets women feel without apology. They tried to erase me. So I wrote myself in digital ink. And in case you're wondering, yes, I wore red heels to that stage, same shade as the ones that once blistered me after the demotion, only now they fit like armor, because pain never leaves empty-handed. It always returns with a gift if you're willing to unwrap it without flinching. Ready for scene 4? There's a unique kind of silence that follows betrayal. It's not quiet. It hums like fluorescent lights in an empty office after hours, like the space between a breath and a scream. That week, The silence screamed louder than any HR email. I still came in early, still made color-coded notes, still smiled out of habit, not hope, but my desk had been moved, not to the back. No, that would have been too obvious. They moved me beside the printer, where toner fumes clung to my cardigans and people avoided eye contact like it was contagious. My job? Rewrite internal newsletters, keep morale high, translate layoffs into strategic pivots. Once I wrote, "We're excited for new beginnings," when what I meant was, "They gutted our team and fed us cupcakes." I pressed send anyway, because what else do you do when you're told to stay thankful for the knife? Bree glowed. Suddenly, her voice carried weight in meetings. She used phrases I had once taught her. My ideas, regurgitated in her voice shinier now somehow. She spoke in slides, in double-space presentations and buzzwords that sounded like leadership. We need storytelling that feels like intimacy but scales like tech. Let's move from empathy to efficiency. They clapped. They didn't know she used to cry on my shoulder over her ex, who left her for a yoga instructor in Denver. Didn't know she'd once called Elise a frozen spreadsheet with hair. Now she mimicked Elise's cadence, even her wardrobe. One day, she walked in wearing a white blazer just like Elise's. I watched them nod at each other, predator recognizing predator. 3 weeks in, she called me into her office. Yes, her office, with the fake fig tree and the scented diffuser I'd bought during a Target run. She gestured at the seat across from her like a queen summoning a servant. "Let's talk growth, babe." I stared. "I've been thinking," she continued. "You've always had such a nurturing vibe. You'd be incredible as our wellness liaison." Wellness liaison? You want me to be, what? A therapist with a clipboard? She laughed. That brittle kind of laugh that sounds like plastic cracking. No, more like a cultural architect. You know, vibes, feelings, office energy. I stared at her for a long time. I realized something then. She didn't betray me because she hated me. She betrayed me because she wanted to be me until it was easier to erase me. "You used to love this place," she said softly. "Don't let a little shift change that." A little shift, the way someone might call a decapitation a haircut. I walked out of her office and straight to the elevator, pressed the button with the kind of restraint only rage understands. The mirrored doors opened, and for the first time in weeks, I really saw myself. Hair still neat, lipstick still red, but the eyes? Empty. Not broken, just gathering kindling. Because sometimes you don't cry, you wait. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, opened the drawer I hadn't touched in months. Inside were fragments of an old dream, mock-ups of a digital, emotional wellness platform I had once been building in secret, a space for women in tech to process burnout, betrayal, and invisible wounds. I had shelved it when work got busy, told myself it wasn't urgent, but betrayal makes things urgent, turns paused ideas into weapons with teeth. I sipped, clicked open the folder, and whispered, "Let's see what happens when sunshine stops playing small." They thought they demoted me, but they just gave me space no more high-level meetings to perform in no more strategy decks to build for someone else's climb. Just me, a laptop, and vengeance disguised as innovation. Every lunch break became a building block. Every ignored email, a new line of code. I used the company Wi-Fi to build the thing that would burn them. Meanwhile, Bree slipped. Her campaigns looked good but lacked heart. The metrics started dipping. Clients requested old ideas I had once pitched and she had rejected. She scheduled an inspiration offsite, paid thousands for a brand coach who told her, "You can't scale loyalty. You have to earn it." She posted that as a quote on LinkedIn. People clapped. I just smiled, because real leadership isn't loud, it's consistent, and I was quietly becoming the version of myself they were too blind to bet on. Then came the board meeting, not mine. Of course I wasn't important enough for that. but someone CC'd me by accident. A 37 slide deck attached. Campaign failures. Low retention. Burnout survey results. Page 12 had a single line in bold. Staff morale plummeted after team restructure. Culture collapse in progress. That night, I sat at my desk, lit a candle, opened my laptop, and registered my platform's name, MirrorMind, because sometimes revenge isn't about tearing them down, it's about building something that forces them to see what they lost. Continue to scene 3. I used to bring coffee for everyone, not to impress, but because it felt like love in a paper cup. Every morning at 8:27, I'd walk into that glass cast startup like I owned no titles, just warmth, red lipstick, floral laptop case, hard-on sleeve, always smiling too much. Like it was a flaw I refused to fix. We were a women-led marketing team inside a rising tech firm in Austin, where kombucha flowed and egos disguised themselves in cardigans. And in that world, I had a work bestie, Bree. With the oversized glasses and curated sarcasm, Bree, who called me sunshine even when I cried in the bathroom stall after a campaign bombed, Bree who told me I was too nice for this cutthroat world, but in a way that made me feel like being kind was resistance. I thought we were building something, not just product launches, but trust, sisterhood, mutual late-night trauma dumps over Slack. Turns out, we were building something. She was building a staircase of whispers to climb above me. I remember the first time I noticed the room shrinking around me. I pitched a brand collab idea to our CEO Elise, a brilliant but guarded woman who built her empire from pitch decks and sheer exhaustion. Elise didn't smile, didn't nod, just blinked once and said, "We'll circle back," the phrase that lives somewhere between a maybe and a quiet no. I sat back in my chair, the bones behind my confidence shivering, and Bree sitting across from me offered a half smile, one of those supportive looks that's just tight enough to sting. After the meeting, I whispered, "Was that bad?" She linked her arm in mine and said, "No, babe, just maybe next time, less sunshine, more shark." I started noticing little things, jokes that felt like knives with glitter, notes left on shared docs with passive-aggressive edits like, "Not sure this copy resonates." Again, once, she CC'd Elise on a small typo I made in a campaign summary. Another time, she told me I was too emotionally invested in feedback, as if caring deeply was a disqualification. But still, I stayed kind. I brought her lattes when she looked tired. I covered her when she came in late. I defended her when others rolled their eyes at her. Constructive comments. Because when you love people, you make excuses for their cruelty and call it grace. I kept going, kept loving, kept trying. Because the world tells girls like me that if we just stay soft long enough, someone will see it as strength, but they don't. They see it as a weakness waiting to be weaponized. And Bree? She wielded my softness like a tool, sharpened it in every one-on-one with Elise, twisted my kindness into incompetence, framed my empathy as instability. I didn't know then, but she was already planting the seeds for my fall. I remember the elevator ride, the one where Elise stood next to me, arms crossed, her perfume like powdered steel. I was babbling nervously about a pitch I'd been perfecting for weeks, and she cut in with, "Maybe let Bree present this one. She's more composed." Composed? The word felt like ice water down my back, like I'd just been told that warmth was no longer welcome. That was the day I started drinking my coffee in silence. No more morning rounds. No more sticky notes with smiley faces. No more sunshine. Just me, a cooling desk, and the echo of a woman being quietly erased in a place she helped color. And yet, I still stayed, because people like me, the empaths, the lovers, the too much girls, we think we can win people over with just one more good deed. We mistake betrayal for a misunderstanding. We wait for the moment someone will say, "I see what she's been doing behind your back. I'm so sorry." But that moment never comes. What came instead was the meeting, the one where Elise announced a restructuring of creative leadership, the one where Bree was promoted to head of brand strategy, and me, I was reassigned to internal communications, demoted, without warning, without reason, without recourse. Bree looked shocked, played the role perfectly, bit her lip, touched my hand. This isn't personal, babe. You're still important. The kind of line people throw at the sinking to keep themselves dry. That night, I walked home barefoot. I'd worn new heels to the meeting, blood red and hopeful. They blistered on the walk back. I passed a mirror inside a boutique window and didn't recognize the woman reflected. Mascara smudged, lipstick faded, eyes swollen with something too proud to be tears. That's when I knew I was never too soft for this world. I was just surrounded by women who mistook softness for surrender. They were wrong, because I wasn't done, not by a long shot.